Welcome to Live from Cy's Lounge, showcasing alumni of Iowa State University and Cyclones everywhere, making communities, Iowa, and the world a better place. Good afternoon, Cyclones everywhere, and welcome into Live from Cy's Lounge. My name is Matt Van Winkle with the ISU Alumni Association. We want to let you know about a very exciting event we have coming up at the ISU Alumni Association. We're hosting our first ever virtual State Day this year. We'll see you on Monday, March 22nd, that's this coming Monday, at 7 p.m. to celebrate Iowa State's Founders Day. We'll be going behind the scenes to explore our university's past and present. There is no cost to attend. However, any Cyclone who donates over $25 receives a special State Day print and an ISU Dining Rice Krispie treat. Plus, registering puts you in the running for cool prizes, including a one-of-a-kind student creation from Iowa State's very own Gaffers Guild. Visit our website, isualum.org, to learn more and to register for our virtual State Day 2021. Well, we are thrilled to be joined by Iowa State alum Kyven Gadson today. As a wrestler at Iowa State, Gadson was a three-time All-American and NCAA champion in the 197-pound weight class. He also excelled off the mat, earning all Big 12 first-team academic honors twice in his career. Since graduating from Iowa State with a degree in Child, Adult, and Family Services, Gadson has remained active in the Central Iowa community. He recently co-founded Be Rare Initiative to promote healthy social and emotional learning patterns in youth through creative outlets. In 2 weeks, he's going to be competing in the U.S. Olympic trials in Texas with the goal of qualifying for the Tokyo Olympics this summer. So please help me welcome to Live from Cy's Lounge, Kyven Gadson. Hey, Kyven.
Hey, Matt. How are you doing?
Doing really well. Thanks for joining us. I like your backdrop. I can see the Olympics in the back, and it looks like a nice painting on the side. Yes, you got the Zoom background all set up. It's perfect.
Yeah, I tried to do it properly.
Awesome. And we both got the green on today for St. Patrick's Day, which is very cool. Awesome. Oh, there you go. It's your own shirt. Let's see it. Can you give it? What's on the shirt there?
It says, "I just want some ice cream," and it's me and as an ice cream cone.
That's fantastic.
It works pretty well. It works pretty well.
That's fantastic. Well, hey, we mentioned you got a big week coming up in just what'd you say, 17 days? Not like you're counting 17 days till the Olympic trials?
16 hours is now what it is, 16 hours. So, I'm super excited. April 2nd and 3rd will be the Olympic trials in Fort Worth, Texas, like you mentioned, at Dickies Arena. So preparation is coming along. It's coming along. It's been a journey. In November, I was actually injured in a competition down in Texas. And so my last 2 trips to Texas in terms of wrestling haven't been like the best for me. But I'm looking to make this 3rd trip extremely special. So,
yeah. So what's it been like just this past year as we've been dealing with COVID? You're training for the Olympics. It's obviously a big moment in your life to have a pandemic kind of thrown into the middle of that. How has that kind of affected your training as you compete?
Well, wow. I guess I wouldn't say it affected me as much as it's affected others. You know, like when everything was happening, right? Like when the pandemic first came upon us, we were practicing in the wrestling room, getting ready, the college guys, for their NCAA tournament. And then all of a sudden their NCAA tournament gets canceled, right? And with that, you kind of thought other things were going to come along after that and get, postponed or canceled. And so there was a bunch of meetings through Team USA and the U.S. Olympic Paralympic Committee deciding on, if they were going to send a team, if the games were going to get postponed. All these different conversations were happening. And then ultimately, the games got postponed. So throughout that time, it was really beneficial for me, just because personally it was just like, okay, now what can I do what can I control? Because this isn't something I can control, right, myself. But what can I control to make myself a better me now that I have another year to prepare? And so I really started to trying to focus in and hone in on like the smaller details of preparation, of knowing myself, learning myself, and growing. Like you said earlier, I was an academic All-American, 2 times, but it wasn't until the final 2 years. I didn't come into college super ready to do the wrestling and do the school and the social thing all together. So it was a learning process for me, a growth process, and it's been extremely positive for me.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, that's, as you think about COVID and the amount of time we've just been able to think to ourselves, right? This wrestling is such a mental sport, I know, but man, just that aspect of you just got to keep waiting and waiting till the trials get rescheduled, and that's just got to been probably be one of the hardest parts, right, for you, is just that overcoming those mental barriers.
Yeah, for sure, and that's always what it is in wrestling, usually, for the most part. I mean, there's some physical things, but the mental piece is a huge component of like your success and your ability to consistently be successful. And so the thing that I've learned the most is like your ability to like just refine and adapt. Like just a month ago, they announced that Olympic trials weren't going to be at Pennsylvania State University and that they were going to get moved somewhere, right? So now you're in limbo. You don't know when it's going to happen. Now you're on more calls trying to figure out when it's going to happen, where it's going to happen at. Are they moving the time frame up? Are they going to move it back? And ultimately, they moved it up a week. And for me, that was scary because I'm coming off an injury. And I'm like, well, is that week going to be, is that going to take me and maybe put me on the sideline? Am I not going to be as sharp and ready as I had hoped or planned? So I've just really learned to kind of adapt some more and be flexible. Not that I think I was like overly unflexible, but it just made very clear and apparent that being able to adapt and being able to be flexible and make changes on the fly is extremely important, especially when you're talking about being successful.
Yeah. We also want to add too, if people have questions for Kyven about his upcoming the Olympic trials, throw them in the comments there, and we'll try and get to those throughout the show. But Kyven, I want to talk about your time as a wrestler here at Iowa State. It wasn't that long ago that you were competing here, but what is it? What were those experiences like competing at the Big 12 level, one of the highest levels in the country? How did that prepare you for where you're at today, competing to get to the Olympics?
Well, I think college prepared me a ton just because there were so many different life changes that I went through in college. When I was a sophomore, a lot of people probably know this, but my father passed away the day after the 12 tournament. And so someone who had always been there for me in life and in wrestling, at 20 years old, I no longer was going to be able to, have a physical conversation with that person. Right. And so being able to learn about myself during that time was super, super challenging. Right. And so that's been my up to date. That's been my biggest loss, like my biggest challenge. And so overcoming that and understanding that never like goes away, right? Like you still deal with it. Just the other day, right? It was March 10th is his passing anniversary. And so like, it's like, oh, like, man, I wish I could talk to my dad, right? But you learn to, like I said, you learn to adapt and be flexible, and you grow through those things. As painful as they can be at times, you learn to grow through them. But I had a blast competing on the Big 12 level. I was able to enter the Big 12 tournament 3 times, and I was able to win it 3 times. So that was really fun. And then to be able to represent the conference, the university, myself, my family, my faith, all those things at the NCAA level. It was all extremely fun for me. There were definitely, the peaks for my benefit. I feel like, I learned a lot. I was even able to get a master's degree, right? I was able to get my master's degree from Iowa State in 17. I'm in higher education leadership and learning under Dr. Barb Licklider. So I'm super appreciative of everything that I've gotten to do as a Iowa State student athlete, and then even beyond that.
So I know when Coach Dresser came to Iowa State, you may have to help me with some of the details on this, but didn't he make Iowa State into a Olympic training site so you're able to compete to train for the Olympics here? Is that right?
Yeah. So there was the Cyclone region. There was a Cyclone Wrestling Club where you could still train, and so I still was training here in Ames in 2000 at the end of 2015 and 16. So I qualified for the Olympic trials in 16, and I ended up losing to another Iowa State alum, Jake Varner, in 2016 at the Olympic trials, who was the 2012 Olympic gold medalist at my weight class. And so then when Coach Kyven Dresser came over, he rebranded essentially the CWC and changed it into the Cyclone Regional Training Center. And so, yes, I'm still part of that, and I train as a senior level, Olympic level athlete out of the Iowa State wrestling room. And my technical head coach is Nate Carr, senior, who was a 3-time NCAA champ and Olympic bronze medalist in Korea in 1988. So have a lot of ties, and I'm super excited to still be here in Ames. 11 years later, still working for that dream. Like you said, you see the rings in the background. But that was one of the things that Kyven Gadson said to me when he came on my in-home visit when I was getting recruited. He said, like, Kyven, we're recruiting you to, be an NCAA champion, to get a bachelor's degree, to get a master's degree, and then win world and Olympic titles. And so that's the last piece of it for me in terms of everything that Coach Jackson, said to me and said what the plan was. And it was essentially a 6-year plan, but I guess I'm a little bit slow on some stuff. But when I came in 2010, summer of 2010, 7 years after that, I had 3 of the things accomplished. I had an NCAA title, I had a bachelor's degree, I had a master's degree. So the plan doesn't always work out in time, but if you stay diligent with it and stay connected to it, it seems like like things can work out pretty good.
For sure. Very cool. Well, you've stayed really involved here in the Ames community even since graduating. You recently co-founded the Be Rare initiative. Tell us about what this organization's about and also why you decided to start it.
Well, the organization is about the kids and the families in the community, and the message behind it was something that came to the co-founder, who is Erica Andorf. Her son is actually on the Iowa State wrestling team. Marcus Coleman, who qualified for the NCAA, so he'll be competing at the NCAA championships this weekend. And we were just in talks about some stuff and maybe starting a wrestling club and some other stuff. And she kind of was like, well, what about something like bigger than that? And I had already, because of my background in child, adult, and family services, I had already, and youth, with the emphasis on youth, I had already worked through some things in college that we had wrote up a business plan and things like that for a nonprofit. And so then when Erica said, like, what about something bigger? It kind of just clicked that, hey, like, we could do something bigger than wrestling. Like, wrestling might not be for everyone, right? Anybody can wrestle, but it might not be for everyone. So, like, well, what can we do to kind of let the kids lead us, right? Like, wrestling was my vehicle, was my passion. And so it's taken me all over the world, right? I've gotten to meet tons of, successful people, different people from different walks of lives and everything like that. And then grad school in higher education, leadership and learning was focused on emotional intelligence. And it was like, okay, this at 22 and 23 years old, learning about and understanding emotional intelligence did this much for me. what will it do if you give it to a kid that's in middle school or elementary school, if you give them those same type of emotional skills and that emotional intelligence so that they can understand themselves, understand how they interact with the world, in the world. You could only think that it would make the child healthier, make the family healthier, make the community healthier. And I think there can be a lot of positive things done with a very special focus on emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting too that you bring that up, because it's like kids when they're that young youth, age, they're really just focused on sports. Like they're not really thinking about life past that. They're all their focus is on, well, I want to play professionally, or I want to be like you, going to the Olympics. But there's so much more to that, to teach people about life and the lessons of life that they just don't understand. So is that something else that you guys with the Be Rare initiative are trying to kind of teach these kids about? There's more to life than sports. So you got to do good in the community too.
Yeah, well, we want them to understand that every one of them is rare, right? Every one of them is rare. Like there's not a multiple or a clone of you. So even if you're a twin, a triplet, quadruplet, like you're rare, you're different than everybody else on this planet, right? And so whatever it is that makes you excited or is your passion, right? Like it'll help you develop those skills. It'll help you understand yourself more and know what you want to do and how you want to be, and it can take you different places. So we want the kids to understand that much about themselves so that they can be like, okay, like I'm gonna use if they learn the instrument, anything that they're passionate about, theater, right? Find them the support system and the mentor to help them push that forward so that they can be great at it. They can be rare at it. And if they're rare at it, then they can take it to different heights. They can go different places with it. And when a kid truly enjoys something or loves something, they take it, right? Like they take off with it. You don't have to like coerce them into going to wrestling practice. If they love wrestling practice, like, hey, Dad, Mom, when's wrestling practice? If they love the violin, they're going to go sit on the violin and learn how, and work at it. If they love the piano, if they love arts and crafts, they're going to go pull that out. If they have those resources, they're going to go get that stuff and they're going to work at it, right? You don't have to, but hey, you need to do this. Hey, you need to do that. They do it themselves, right? Mm. And so I think that's the special thing, is that we're focusing on what the child brings to us, what they want to do, and helping push that forward with them, and giving them the helping them learn those skills that they need to be successful within themselves, most importantly. And once you can have that success with yourself, you'll find the ability and the ways to have it within your family, your community, all those different things.
I wish I had the picture, but I know this past year in 2020, you helped with the derecho cleanup. There was a great picture that was going around of you carrying a big tree trunk or something, big tree limbs.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool to see. Was that part of you took a group out there to help clean up some storm? I thought I saw a picture in there maybe of that.
What happened was I had a friend, Matt Beatty, and we were talking about, I can't remember what it was. And then he just was like, hey, I have a friend in Ankeny. They're doing some cleanup because of the derecho. Would you be able to, come help? And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. So I went out there just like on my own time, also and helped that family out. And they were Iowa State people. But I also went over to Cedar Rapids, another group led by Josh Schamberger and former University of Iowa wrestler Luke Eustace. They did a derecho cleanup in Cedar Rapids that my brother and I went over and helped out with. So just, I like to say people helping people. There's a lot that goes on in the world, and there's a lot of things that go on within people. And I think the best and one of the most important things we can do as humans, is just be people helping people. So that's kind of how that came along. But I got some like some blueberry zucchini bread out of it, and it was delicious.
And there were Cyclones that you were helping out. I think I saw, right? They were fellow Iowa Staters. That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice. And because you're from Eastern Iowa, right? Are you from Waterloo or that kind of area?
So I was born in Iowa City, but I keep that under wraps.
Okay.
I was born in Iowa City, and I lived there till through 6th grade. And then in 2004, my dad got the head coaching job at Waterloo East, so we moved up to Waterloo. And so I went through middle school and high school in Waterloo, and that's what I consider home. That's where I feel like I grew up. And then I moved to Ames. So I actually, as of right now, at 28 years old, the longest I've been a place is the 12 years I spent in Iowa City. And then now Ames is, I got here at 17. So I'm going on, 11 years. So I have to stay another year so I can, even that out or surpass it. So if Ames will keep me, I guess I'll stay.
Awesome. Well, hey, I know you've got the ice cream shirt, and I know that you also recently partnered with the ISU Creamery, the new ISU Creamery on campus, to develop a new ice cream that's going to be released on April 12th. Tell us about this process. I know that's something you're going over there to do today to kind of finalize the flavor, right?
Yes. Okay. So yeah, on April 10th, the Creamery is release, or they're starting their Saturday hours, which will be from 2 to 6, and that is the day that the ice cream will be released. Okay. And the name, so I really enjoyed this process, by the way. I had a ton of fun because I think if you've seen the interview, I don't know if you guys can pull up that interview or whatever, but in 2015 or whatever, after I won NCAAs, I had an interview, and they were like, well, like, what's up? How do you feel? And I just was like, I just want some ice cream. So now, 6 years later, I am finally getting my ice cream, and I got to make it. And so the name is going to be called Champion Chip Kyven Dough. So Champion Chip Kyven Dough. And it is going to be dulce de leche flavored ice cream with chocolate chip cookie dough, caramel swirls, and chocolate chips. And I'm super pumped about it. And I get to go over to the Creamery today and work on some production stuff, and it's going to be super, super fun for me. And it's been a super fun process as is. I think it started in probably October, and then we really got rolling in January with like the production and trying out the sample flavors, and me having to go through picking it, sampling it, seeing what tasted right, what didn't, how the cookie dough paired. It was like an intricate process. So I'm super appreciative of my manager Erica, as well as Miss Stephanie and Dr. Clark over at the ISU Creamery. They've been awesome with and throughout the whole process, and they just made it a blast.
If people don't know what we're talking about, I found the clip, so let's see if we can get this played here.
Smiling somewhere. Let's go to Quinn Kesnick.
Great. Yes, you are great. What emotions were you dealing with when you stepped on the mat when this match started?
A lot of the nerves. Had to let out some nervous energy. In the back, I was yelling.
Oh, man, a quiet match all of a sudden blew up. Boom. What happened?
That's called the Gadson. I coined it. I'm gonna patent it next.
What was it like for you with the family adversity that you've gone through to now win a national championship?
Awesome. I love my dad. I'm about to start tearing up. Whew. It's just awesome. We work for this. My dad, my mom, everyone, we work for this.
What's it feel like?
I just want some ice cream, man. I just want some ice cream.
That's awesome. There it is.
Yeah, so that's how that came about. And I literally, the story behind that is So it was super hard for me to continue wrestling like after my dad passed away, not because I wrestled for him my whole life, but because when he did pass away, I put that on my shoulders, like, oh, you have to win and wrestle for him. And that wasn't the right thing to do. It wasn't properly placed emotion. I don't think I gave myself the proper time to grieve and kind of understand what was happening. Because when it was happening, I was in the middle of season, right? And he wanted me to focus on season. It's like, oh, this is what you need to do. Focus on wrestling. And so when he asked me, after I won NCAAs, like I'm all jacked up, right? Like, just full of energy, joy. And he's like, well, how does it feel? And I'm like, oh man, like my dad's not here. Right. Like, but that wasn't my first thought process. Like, oh, my dad's not here to watch this. So then I answered him and I told him, like I was about to start tearing up. And then I felt like he asked me the same question again. And I was like, well, I'm not about to like cry on national television. I just told you I was about to start tearing up. I don't want to cry on national television. I'm happy right now. And so I just started thinking like happy thoughts. Like, how are you going to celebrate? Like, what's your celebration going to be? And so I was like, happy thoughts. And like, it was just like ice cream came to my head. And so I just want some ice cream. Man. I kind of just like ended the interview and bolted off. Just cause I was just trying to like keep myself happy. Like I was like, this isn't a sad moment, right? Like this doesn't need to be a sad moment. This is a happy moment. You just accomplished one of your dreams you set as a kid. And you get to appreciate everybody that put work and effort into it. And so it was just like, think happy. And it was just like, this like little ice cream cone, like just like popped up in my head. And that's how I got to celebrate that evening, was with some ice cream. So it was cool.
That's a great story. Well, I hope you'll be able to celebrate with some ice cream after after the Olympic trials and you make your way to Tokyo, right?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward. To that. Because there's so much time, energy, and not just my time and energy, right? Like there's everybody's time and energy. Your family members, your close friends, your fans, like people that support you. Everybody pours into a dream, right? Like, and it might have started out as your dream, right? But as it gets bigger, you need, people in different places that can get to different things. That can introduce you to different things, help you learn different things, help you grow in different ways, that pour into this dream and commit to helping you essentially like be your best self. And so those things are exciting. So like finally, right, like I'm gonna get my ice cream and hopefully in 16, 17 days on April 3rd, that night I'll be celebrating making the Olympic team. And then the next week, be rolling out an ice cream at the ISU Creamery. Right. So I'm just super excited. I'm fortunate to have a lot of positive things going on in my life. And so, yeah, I'm grateful.
For sure. Well, Kyven, thanks so much for joining us today and best of luck in the trials in April. All right. We'll all be cheering you on. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Kyven. That is the great Kyven Gadson, All-American wrestler at Iowa State, competing for the Olympics, the Tokyo Olympics coming up here in April. We want to also remind you of our interview coming up next week. We invite you to tune in next Wednesday at noon. We'll be talking with Iowa State alumna Dr. Lauren Hughes. She's the State Policy Director of the Farley Health Policy Center at the University of Colorado. Thank you so much for watching, and go Cyclones! This series is made possible by members of the Alumni Association. If you are interested in staying connected to the university and receiving all the benefits and services of being a member, visit isualum.org.